In this episode, we speak with Scott Voigt, the founder and CEO of FullStory, a behavioral data platform that helps technology leaders make better, more informed decisions. In 2014, Scott teamed up with two former Innuvo colleagues to develop the earliest iterations of FullStory. Scott's mission is for organizations to understand their customers like never before. FullStory's platform allows businesses to create world-class experiences that increase funnel conversion, easily detect malicious behaviors and fraud, and identify their highest value customers effortlessly. Prior to co-founding FullStory, Voigt led marketing at Silverpop before the company was acquired by IBM. Previously, he worked at Noro-Moseley Partners, the Southeast's largest venture firm, and also served as COO at Innuvo, which was acquired by Google. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
RJ, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You're a multiple-time entrepreneur. It's always interesting to get the take of a multiple-time entrepreneur. I'm going to start off with what you think is unique about entrepreneurs, and do you think they are born or made?
Certainly both. There's all sorts of paths to it. I do think that pretty early in my experience, I was showing signs of entrepreneurs. It'd be interesting to poll other entrepreneurs. I guess you could. You know, when I was in high school, my father worked for Hewlett Packard, and so I had access to printers in the 80s. And so, you know, I started making fake IDs back in the day. And it really wasn't about the money as much as like, can you build it and can you make it work? And so, yeah.
It's a question I actually ask quite frequently on the podcast, and everyone has their own answer to it. But let's go right into your journey, because you have a mix of experiences, including as an investor. So maybe wherever you'd like to start.
So I would say I was fortunate when I came out of Georgia Tech a long time ago. I actually went to work at a startup company in the mid 90s and was fortunate to be part of a 9 or 10 person company during the dot-com run-up. And I just fell in love with the idea of being at an early stage company when a category was created. We took that company public in 1999, and to just be on the front row of that, I was like, boy, I really would like to try that. In the wake of that, I went to work for one of our investors, our venture investors. And so I would tell you that was probably really my formative experiences to sit on the investor side of the table. And you'd see these, it was an early stage investor, so you'd see these different types of CEOs and founders come in. And some were super brilliant, ex-McKinsey, X and Y charts. This is why we're going to be successful. And then others were to come in and they were just crazy people that had an idea and they were going to run through a wall. And so I would, you know, as I kind of edged up to the line of, did I ever want to be an entrepreneur? I would kind of look in the mirror and decide, which one of those am I? And that's to your initial question. I just think there are all sorts of shapes and sizes of entrepreneurs, and I'm somewhere in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm. Was there, and as you got started, maybe we'll take the first company you founded, because I know you founded multiple, but was there something surprising, like something that you thought entrepreneurship would be like, but in effect it was different and you had to exercise kind of different capabilities to be successful?
Well, I think there's some consistencies when you're starting something. It's going from scratch, that 0 to 1 phase. And that's going to be consistent no matter what. And the thing that you're going to need to do there is just be creative in the approaches you take to problem solving. A skill that I tend to lean on is just leaning on others to help me solve the problem. Like, I'm just not afraid to pick up the phone to somebody that I've never met before that maybe has solved this problem. And believe it or not, the first company, it's not anywhere on LinkedIn, but when I was in business school, I started a company. Details don't matter, but it was a consumer product, and I knew nothing about making consumer products. I found 2 college students in a town far away. I went to a class that was specializing in the thing I wanted to build, asked the professor if I could speak to the class, found 2 kids in the back of the class who were like, hey, we'll help you. So that's that kind of problem solving that you need in it. But From there, it's going to be a bunch of different things depending on what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do.
Now let's jump into Full Story. It's a wonderful piece of software that I think truly offers something unique to the market. So for the benefit of our audience, you can tell us, what Full Story does.
Yeah, so we would say Full Story is a digital behavioral platform. And what we created was a mechanism to ingest and structure behavioral data, digital behavioral data, in a way that has never happened before. So with a minimal amount of code deploy on a site or an app, we're the deepest structured record for every digital visit. And so for product managers, for engineers, for designers, for marketers, we can basically tell them the full story on what is happening when visitors come on site. And that helps them make better decisions on what sort of content to present. It helps them understand where people are confused in a checkout flow in order to fix that. And it's been a real interesting journey of finding all the different ways that different personas can use behavioral data to solve their own problems.
It's frequently the case where it's hard to discern what the change in design or a change in content is driving the change in behavior. It seems like you'd have to almost like isolate the change and go in sequence and A/B test.
Do you want to come work at Full Story? You've got the idea of the pitch. Look, I think good startups, they invent something new, right? They don't just repackage an old idea. And most companies today, when it comes to trying to understand behavioral data or digital experience, they use a fundamentally flawed approach at collecting data. And it starts with a product manager or a site owner saying, I think I know what's important in the customer journey. Is it clicking on the add to cart button? Is it clicking on the checkout button? Those things are important. So now I'm going to go get an engineer to write some event code around those button clicks so it'll phone home to an analytics platform. So I can then measure what happened. Now, the problem with that is it's biased data because people aren't very good at knowing what's important. It's expensive in collecting that data. And then they're just concepts you can't really get through that instrumentation paradigm. Like, did somebody highlight a piece of text? Did somebody mouse over something with intent? And so what we invented was a way to just capture all of that data and make sense of it. But to your point, that's a lot of data. And so now we're in this place where we're helping our customers understand the before and after states of things. What happened before an A/B test and after an A/B test, looking at all of that data, summarizing that data, because AI is a thing now. It was like before this thing was happening, and now this is what's different. And it's just changed the paradigm of how somebody that's responsible for a site can understand what really matters.
So I could see this being applied to many different types of websites, from e-commerce to a simple informational corporate B2B. Where is it most prevalent?
Well, one of the blessings, the curse of how we went to market is we went to market as a product-led company. And so anybody that wanted to come and try Full Story and buy Full Story could. So, we've got, I don't know, over 3,500 customers at this point, and we have one of everything, at least one of everything. We have native mobile first companies. We have huge financial institutions. We have lots of large e-commerce and omni-channel commerce companies, airlines. I mean, it's like, if you care about digital experience and you think the answers are in data, Full Story can help you with that. Increasingly over time, we're moving towards the enterprise because we think the most sophisticated problems are with large amounts of data and large visitor experiences. And that tends to skew towards consumer purchasing flows where money is involved. Like if I'm buying an airline ticket or if I'm trying to buy a financial service product, Full Story can help with that.
What about situations where discovery happens on one site, but purchasing happens on another? So you could actually go to Google, like to your point about travel, see where all the hotels are, what they look like, how they would be ranked, and then you go to other sites. And then do you capture that as well?
No is the soundbite. Full Story, we act as a first-party data company. And I think that's really important as third-party cookies start to disappear from the universe. We got started because we cared about digital experience. We thought companies were spending so much money to get people on site and they just have no idea what was happening. And so our relationship is with our customers, and our customers have a relationship with their visitors. And we're just trying to make sure that that's a trustworthy experience all the way through.
And how did you come up with this idea?
Actually, before we built FullStory, the founding team, we were working on a totally different idea. When we launched that product to the world, we were just trying to understand what our customers were doing on site. And that old paradigm that I talked about, where we would spend a lot of time to get a little bit of data, drove us absolutely crazy. And I was like, there has to be a better way to capture all of this data and interpret it. And I was very fortunate to have much, much smarter co-founders than myself that could look at a technical problem and reimagine it through a new lens. And that led us down the path to building FullStory.
So from a non-technical person, how does it actually work? How do you capture everything that the user is doing and potentially thinking?
Let me start with everything with a very important asterisk in a privacy-friendly way. So FullStory is not capturing passwords or credit card information. And so again, our relationship is with our customer. Our customer's relationship is with their visitor. So privacy is very important. But in essence, what we do is on the web, similar approach to mobile, is our script will live on the page, very similar to the way Google Analytics would. And then we came up with a novel approach of looking at any change that happens on the page, sort of understanding those changes events, and then we'll recreate on the server, we would call it a dramatic reenactment of everything that happened, every single interaction that happened on that site by just looking at the differences on the page. So we can see every interaction, we can understand everything that the customer saw. And that just changes the paradigm from only the things you thought you wanted to know to everything except the privacy friendly things, which we would never bring down in the first place.
So once you figured this out for your own purposes, your team got together and said, well, we could probably go to market and have everyone benefit from this solution.
I wish it was quite as clean as that. The first product that we built, it was going okay. Part of the reason that we wanted to understand the experience more is like, what could we fix to make this product do better? So I think about the same time that we were understanding that there was an opportunity with FullStory, that first business wasn't going as well. So part of being a good entrepreneur is knowing when to kind of hold them and when to fold them. And I think we decided to pivot pretty hard. And so we knew that we could build it technically. We had built just enough proof of concept. But before we turned the ships, we went out and pitched really just a PowerPoint presentation of FullStory, or what we thought was FullStory. It wasn't even named FullStory. We called it Cowpaths at the time. And so I pitched this, and the many companies in the world that had me sit down with them and said, is this a problem? Is this a problem? Is this a problem? Those are problems. What about this solution? And they were just mocks. And will you buy this? Because we're building it right now. We weren't exactly building it right now. And I was trying to take purchase orders to get strong signal that there was a market behind it. And it turns out there was. So it was more than a pivot. It was a Control-Alt-Delete, and we headed in that direction as fast as we could.
And so would love to learn a little bit more about your founding team. Do you have multiple co-founders?
Yep. Actually, so the original founding story of FullStory goes way, way back, where there were myself and then two brilliant computer scientists, Bruce and Joel. We were all down at Georgia Tech working on different startups. I ended up joining Bruce and Joel's startup. In a fortunate twist of fate, we hit Google's radar, and Google acquired that little startup. Bruce and Joel went and worked for Google. I went to another company, but we enjoyed each other's company. We were good friends. And so we wanted to do something down the road, 6 years down the road. So we started working on that other product. We were able to bring a number of those Google folks over. So when we found the idea for FullStory, we were actually a team of 8 people, which unventure backed, 8 people working on a product that wasn't the right product. It was a very stressful time. But again, kind of to the earlier theme, beg, borrow, and steal your way to glory. The fine folks at MailChimp, who we knew, were very nice. And they were like, hey, if you need an office to work in, we'll let you work for free in this office space that we have, which was nice. And they actually would let us do consulting work for them because we had good engineers and we would just build whatever they wanted us to build. And it was just enough money for us to pay ourselves while we were working on the first product and making the pivot into full story. So it takes a village and pay it forward if you're an entrepreneur. We certainly will. In our office right now, we've got another startup that's leasing some space for us for not much money, just because it's good to continue to pay it forward in the community.
Are you ever concerned about, in the early days of the idea, like operating in stealth mode in order to preserve anything proprietary that could get leaked or ideas getting taken?
I'm not now. The inertia of going from 0 to 1 it takes a lot. Like execution really, really matters. And so be paranoid is probably a good mode, but I don't anymore. I share good ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the founding team, what do you think enabled you to work well together? I imagine you encounter conflicts along the way, but you have a way to manage that effectively.
Yeah, I would say it's a journey. You balance each other where you can. And clarity is one of the words that we use a lot at the company. And so we try to make sure that we are over communicating, especially when there's conflict in play. And I think that's served us fairly well.
What's your biggest challenge now in terms of scaling the company?
We've grown the business really well. We like where we are. Somebody in that room next door that I'm interviewing, and what I just said to this person was, there are so many things that we could do right now with this set of data that we're collecting on behalf of our customers. The question is which ones we must do and how we prioritize what we must do and who we must do it for. And so it really is a prioritization challenge that we've never been faced with before. And it's an exciting one, but it's also a stressful one to say, like, okay, if we make this bet here, we're not going to make this bet because we're not living in the era of hypergrowth free money anymore. We're like running a profitable business here, guys. So you can't just chase every idea, and picking the best one is important.
And do you typically use data to figure that out? Or is it judgment?
It's a yes and. It has to be. So the mechanism that worked well way back when we founded FullStory is still the thing that works well now, which is, can you pitch it? Can you get customer signal that they would give you money for it? So you need to know you can build something, but it's important to just go and pitch it. And so I workshop stuff with customers all the time to try to get my own intuition about, is there really a there? But the best signal is pitch it and see if people will give you money for it.
Excellent. I like to touch a little bit on culture because it's usually key to how a company can scale. How would you define your culture, or what are your intentions around your organizational culture?
Yeah, they're the things that you write on the wall, the watchwords that we come back to over and over again. And those are meaningful and those are important. I also just think it is a function of the way that you operate the business and the values that you put forth in the way that you treat other people. Every interview, there's a moment in the interview where I say, hey, I just want you to understand we have a no yelling policy at FullStory. We don't yell at each other. I know there some companies, that's how they do it. That's how they get things done. But I actually think usually, I don't know if it's totally true, but founding teams are what imprint the culture, whether they mean to or not. And when we came across the idea of FullStory, I told you we were 8 of us. Of the 8 of us, 7 of us were parents at the time. And I think that sort of put this implicit culture in place. It's like, hey, we're going to work hard, but we know that there are more important things in life than just work. And we've got to go be good parents. And we need to clock out every once in a while and go do those things. As parents, you also learn the phrase, use your words. And so we don't yell at each other. We use our words and we talk things out the right way. And so clarity is one of our watchwords. And clarity is sort of the implicit idea that we don't yell at each other. Empathy is one of those things. Nobody wants to get yelled at. We put ourselves in those shoes. And anyway, those values are less about the words that are written and more about the actions that the founding team and the management team keep consistent as you grow and evolve.
You've raised significant capital. You've got highly reputable investors. I always like to touch a little bit on the value some of these investors have brought to you in maybe unique ways, aside from the financial capital?
We feel really fortunate about the investors that we've been able to bring along. We've tried to be intentional about it. We've been in a very fortunate position when we've raised capital. We've had an option to choose which type. And there have been times, more than one, where we didn't take the highest deal because we liked the partner of another firm. And we said, all right, look, this person is going to be an owner in us, and we want to make sure that our values are aligned. So one of my board members, a guy named Ron Shaw, I text with that guy almost daily. And he brings a perspective because he has a pattern matching view that I don't have. And he's very collaborative. And our board just kind of tends to be that way. I mean, the obvious things are like, hey, I need to get into this account because I'd like to pitch them on this idea. Can you help me? They're very good at that. But when you have people that can appreciate the operator's mindset and bring the investor's mindset, if you can get both of those things just right, I think that's a real formula. I've got CEO friends that talk about how they're bored and they kind of lament the tension because it's only the investor perspective. It's not the operator and the investor perspective. So I feel very fortunate.
Super interesting. We're heading into the tail end of the conversation. I got two final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
There are a bunch. I mean, it's super cliche, guy. I know it is, but my mother, if I think about the entrepreneurial mindset and the hustle, which I think it takes to be an entrepreneur, that was Star Voigt. She was always pushing hustle on us. You always work hard. That's one of the values that I think is really, really important. And she would always point out sort of counter cases, like, look at how that person is working right now. They're not working very hard. Always work hard. So she's been quite an influence.
And did she work into her later years?
Yeah. Yeah. She's still hustling out there. She's a champ.
Awesome. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Well, too many people have heard an earful of this, but I found a late in life love of the sport of lacrosse. And so every Sunday I suit up and go run around with a bunch of old guys and hit each other with sticks. And so I personally enjoy doing that, but I have coached lacrosse for many, many years. And I do advise young managers at FullStory and entrepreneurs, honestly, if you haven't done a lot of management, go coach a kid's sport. And I don't care what sport it is. And you will learn a lot about the dynamics of a team, motivation, punishment, like all of the things. And so I've taken a little bit of a hiatus from coaching, but I hope to get back to it pretty soon.
Excellent. Well, Scott, I want to thank you again for taking the time. This has been a wonderful conversation.
RJ, I appreciate it. I really do. Be well.